Hi, this is Brent with BDA Studios, and today I want to talk about creating practical 3D prints. Now, what do I mean by practical? Well, it's mostly thinking of problems that you might have around the house where you need to print something that will help solve a problem. So the problem that I currently have is on my xTool M1 Ultra. There is a exhaust hose that goes out of the back, and it terminates in this small 66 millimeter diameter end, and I want to marry it with a 100 millimeter or 4-inch coupler. Now, I found this at the local hardware store, but it's a little too big, and when I had it set up, I just had a lot of tape around it. It just wasn't very practical. And I also realized that I needed to print some 4-inch couplers so that I could connect multiple hoses together. The process I'm going to show will also leverage the use of an SVG file that allows you to create models from the SVG file that will follow the measurements a little more exact. I'll show what I'm talking about here in a second, but I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to create the circles in the size, the diameter that I need in another tool that will allow me to export SVG files. Now, you could do this in Adobe Illustrator, you could do it in Inkscape, any software that allows you to export SVG. I happen to have xTool Creative Space, which is free and allows me to export. So I'm going to start there, and from there I'm going to go into Tinkercad. So let's take a second and open up xTool Creative Space. Here I've just got a blank document open, and in this case it doesn't really matter if you're connected to a laser or not. It's mostly for the design space to allow us to create the circles and then export them. So first I'll come over here and I'll choose my circle. I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and then I'm going to click and drag, and we'll make a circle, and that constrains it to the aspect ratio so that the entire circle is the same size, we're not squished. And then I'm going to click circle one more time and hold Shift and draw a larger circle. Select this first one. So when I measured, it looked like it was 66 millimeters for the outer diameter. And then for this larger one, we know that 4 inches is about 100 millimeters. Let's select this one and then right click and choose Export as SVG. And then I'm just going to call this small circle. And I'll select the larger one, and I'm just going to export as SVG. And we'll just call this large circle. Of course, you can be a little more descriptive, but for our purposes, that's all we need. So at this point, this is all we need from xTool Creative Space, is just to be able to create the circles and export as SVG. Now let's open up Tinkercad, and here we're going to import the two files. So let's start with the small circle and choose Open, and then leave all these the same, and we'll choose Import. And then I'm going to move that over, give myself some room, and then I'm going to import the large circle. Okay. What this does is it gives us the ability to modify how this looks. So when you select this object, because it's an SVG, you have more options over here. So the first option we want to change is we're going to change this fill to, now we have outer line and inner line. What this refers to is whether the thickness of the line is something that goes from the outside or it goes from the inside of the line. So for example, if we say inner line, then what this does is it turns it into sort of a cylinder shape, and then when we have a line width, the line width affects the inside of the diameter. Notice if I change this to outer line, then the line width affects on the outer dimension. Now this is important to understand, because what we're doing is I want the large circle to be 100 millimeters on the outside, but on the small circle what I want is for it to be 66 millimeters on the inside. So what that means then is if I want to make sure that regardless of the thickness that this is always 100 millimeters on the outside, then I need to change this to inner line. So you'll have to kind of experiment with it, but you'll know if you do it wrong, because all of a sudden it'll stop working. So let's go ahead and change this to 3 millimeters, and for the height, let's just go ahead and set it to a height of 30. And then quality just determines how many sides there are to it, and we want as many as we can get. And then corners we want to turn to round. Alright, so this is the 4-inch, and again the inner line, the thickness is on the inside, so the outside is consistent. Let's come over here to the smaller circle, and again remember we want the outer line, because the inside we want this to be 66 millimeters on the inside. Again, we're going to set this to round, we're going to set the quality up, and then let's set this line thickness also to 3 millimeters, and then let's set this to 30 for the height. Okay, at this point we've got the top and bottom, as it were, and let's select both of these. So what I did is I clicked drag and then I selected both, and we're going to line them up, and we want to center them horizontally in both directions. Now let's take this middle one, and I'm going to move over here so we can see it. Let's lift this up, and let's lift it maybe about 50. It doesn't matter too much, but we want to give ourselves enough of a gap. Let's set it to 60. There we go. Alright. So now we want to join these, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the cone and set it up over here. And there's a couple of ways to handle this. Again, for the sides, let's bump up the sides so that it's nice and smooth. So we got the sides high quality, and then the rest we're going to manually adjust. The base radius and the top radius relate to how much they connect, and so we can do a couple of things. Let's center these things. So I'm going to click away, click and drag, and just select these two bottom items, and then I'm going to click the align tool. Now I'm going to click the large circle, so that'll kind of anchor to the large. So now when I move this centerpiece will adjust to the large circle. So now I'm lined up just like that. So let's raise this up, and we know that we are 30 millimeters off the ground, because that's how tall this one is. And here we can adjust the base radius until it lines up with... Now the tricky part is I'm not sure what the measurements are, what this radius measurement is. I guess it would be half. It sounds like it's half, right? Isn't radius half of the circle? So if we set that to 50, then we should be good. And if we set this one, half of 66 is 33, right? Alright, let's see how that works. So now, notice they're lined up, And let's adjust the height until it lines up just. See how it starts to overtake. Let me zoom in here. See how as I'm adjusting this, this is going to overtake the edge. Let's just set it up right there, just like that. Okay. Now, of course, the challenge is that we have a solid. So let's do this. We want to select just the center object, and then I'm going to press, I want to duplicate it or press Control D. And now, what I want to do, this is a tricky little selector, but it's Shift, Control, Alt. And what it's doing is it's going to, when I'm holding these three buttons down, and then when I click the corner and then I bring it in, it's going to bring everything in exactly. So let's just bring everything in like maybe 97, 96. 96 is good. Now, don't click anything else. Go ahead and select whole. So now that that inner object is selected, it's selected as whole. Now, here's the tricky part. We can't see the smaller hole, but as long as you haven't touched anything, then you can press Shift and then touch the outer. So now we should have both the outer transition and the inner transition selected. And then we can press Control G to group. And if we did that right, okay, we did that right. So see how it's cut out in the middle? But now we need to trim the top. So let's select this, and I'm going to hide it. And now what I need is to bring out a cube, and I'm just going to make this cube bigger than the entire thing, and then I'm going to click and drag and bring it up to the top, and I'm just you can see how I'm just below. In fact, at this point what you can do is show everything, and we have a lot of room to go. So let's expand this height, and I want to bring it just until it's right at the bottom of the top circle. Now, again, this is the tricky part. What we're doing is we have the cube selected, and then I'm going to press Shift and I'm going to touch the little transition piece. And now they're both selected, so now if I Control G, I can group them. And now, look at that. We are cut out just right. Now there's a little lip, but that's okay. Let's group all these together. Select all, and then press Control G, and now we are grouped. Okay, here is our transition piece. Now let's go ahead and make the coupler piece. So we've already got this piece which we like, everything's got the right dimensions, and I want to duplicate it, so I'll select, and I can either press the duplicate button up here, or I can just press Control D, and then I click and drag, and now we have it. Now what I want to do is ungroup these, so with it selected, press Control Shift G, and that will ungroup. And then from here I can delete the little transition piece and delete the small piece. So what I want is to take this is a 100 millimeter outer dimension, or a 4-inch diameter. And so let's duplicate this and let's bring it up. And if you remember, these are 30 tall. And so now we're sitting right on top of each other. What I want to do is create a little ledge so that when I combine the two hoses, they won't, it'll be easy to keep them centered. So like when I put one hose on one end, it'll stop at a little ledge. So to do that, let's take this top one and then let's press Control D. We're going to duplicate it again, but this time we're going to change the color because it's hard to see, so let's just pick a different color. And then what I want to do is shrink this down just a little bit, maybe make it 10 millimeters tall. But again, I want to expand this object where it's at and make it a little larger in every direction. And so remember, we press Shift, Control, Shift, Control, Alt, and then we click a corner, and I'm going to bring it out, and notice how it brings it out in all directions. And 4 millimeters around, that looks good. So see, now I've got this little ledge, and if I want, I can bring this down just a little bit so that we're somewhat centered. Let's see, this is, we said this is, let's just make this 10, even height, and then its position 25. There we go, that looks a little more centered. Okay, now let's go ahead and select all these. So we click away, click and drag over all of them, and then press Control G, and then we are ready. Okay, let's go ahead and export this. Let's rename it 2 to 4 adapter, because it's about 2-inch to 4-inch adapter. And click away, and then make sure this is selected, and then go ahead and export as a .stl. Now we want to rename this again, and I'm just going to say 4-inch adapter, or coupler. We'll call it a coupler. Alright, with this selected, then go ahead and choose export and as an STL. Okay, from this point then you can open your 3D printing software and print it. In my case, I happen to have Bambu Studio. So here I am in Bambu Studio, and I'm going to select my A1 Mini, and from here we'll make sure this is set to A1 Mini, and then we'll synchronize the colors. Let's click the Add button, and let's add our 2-inch to 4-inch adapter, and then let's click the Add button one more time and add our 4-inch coupler. Now, on the A1 Mini, these will fit, and if you click the Auto Arrange button, so this third button here, it lines it up. Look at that. So we'll go ahead and slice that and send it to the printer. Here I've got my Bambu Lab A1 Mini, which I really like, and it's very affordable. If you haven't gotten into 3D printing, I highly recommend getting the Bambu A1 Mini. It's got a fairly small print bed, but it's going to give you everything you need to make parts. I mean, here you can see we've got two 4-inch size parts that fit all on one print bed. Obviously you can spend more money getting into like the A1 or some of the other larger 3D printers, but if you happen to be a laser engraver and you want to get into 3D, then I would recommend the Bambu Lab A1 Mini as a great introduction to 3D printing. Okay, so here are the final products that we just pulled off the printer, and this is the reducer or expander, however, whatever direction you're going, that'll take it from the exhaust that I have, and so it fits really well. It's a little loose, but it's actually much better than the other one, and this will fit the tape a lot easier. And then I also have the 4" to 4" coupler that allows me to connect multiple hoses. Hopefully this was helpful. Be sure to like and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, and I'll see you in the next video.